work at the Krusty Krab?
I don't just work there. I'm Vice Assistant General Manager in charge of certain things.
You're listening to the Mike Kara radio program, Eye on the Nation.
Well, welcome back to our next edition of the Mike Kara radio program, Eye on the Nation. We definitely have our eye on the nation. As always, proudly broadcasting from Ocoee, Florida, USA, planet Earth. And my guest today is Dr. Iris A. Pfeffer. And Iris is renowned for 40 years of experience in human service focused on the issue of aging and individual challenges facing older adults. She holds degrees in nursing, social work, and a PhD in human service management. And Dr. Pfeffer speaks on the unique challenges and opportunities of the growing population of older adult workers in corporate America and government sectors. Her fun and inspirational talks focus on making each listener a H.A.G, H.A.G, an advocate and innovator for older adults in the American workplace. Dr. Pfeffer brings both a sense of humor and her bag of tricks filled with knowledge and experience on this timely and vital topic. And Iris, a pleasure and honor you could join me today, a return guest. And I'm so excited because today we're talking about seniors in the workplace, how seniors are continuing to work longer. And as the baby boomer generation moves on, there's a lot of changes that are occurring. And again, Iris, this kind of subject is very personal to me because my parents actually will be both 64 this year. So they're kind of on the cusp. And it's kind of cute because my dad, Iris, always is saying, I'm so busy now. I got so much to do. I'm retired, but when I'm 70, I'm going to go back to work. So, I mean, that's just cool to hear. And first of all, Iris, I'm sure you're aware of where you're calling, which is Ocoee, Florida, around Orlando, Florida, not too far from Walt Disney World. And we want to talk about seniors in the workplace. It's just so fun and so exciting to see so many older Americans getting back into the workplace and at Walt Disney World. So let's start this conversation and just tell us a little bit as we're mentioning that, more and more Americans are, they have a passion for their career, their job, and they just keep going, huh?
Well, I think this is just such an exciting topic, and I'm glad you think so too, Mike, and I'm glad it's personal for you. It's certainly personal for me because I'm one of those individuals. I'm a baby boomer, and it is one of the big reasons why our older adults in the workplace are such a large part of the population who is in the workforce today. Right now, even publications like the Washington Post are saying this is an emerging issue that is on the American scene and is extremely important. And unfortunately, the public and private sectors of industry have not really taken up the issue and at the rate of concern that they need to. So we really have to talk about the things that have to change on behalf of our senior worker. But the demographics are overwhelming, and of course our 78 million baby boomers are now starting to turn 65, or they started last year, and that would have been the retirement age, but as you mentioned, our baby boomers aren't retiring.
Right, yeah, they're
staying on in the workforce for a variety of reasons.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot, like we're saying, yeah, people, and especially, of course, we mentioned celebrities, people like, of course, Mick Jagger turning 70, and I don't think he's ever going to stop. So, I mean, it one of those reasons, Iris, that we're talking about is you have such a, like in Mick Jagger's case, such a love and passion for music, and you just want to keep going then.
Well, we're very lucky in our country. The older worker now is much healthier than the generation before. They're better educated. They're more financially secure. And although they may not need the finances, their lifespan is longer, so they can work longer. Of course, that's a double-edged sword because as our lifespan increases, some people haven't prepared for that long lifespan into the 80s and 90s and do need the financial support. So are working into their later years. But there's also a change in the whole thought about what retirement means. Retirement used to mean the end of work, sitting home and perhaps playing a little golf, watching a little television, and kind of waiting for the Grim Reaper. That's not true anymore. Retirement is seen as a cyclical part of life, where it's new beginnings, a second or third career, getting involved in public service, working as a volunteer, or more often now, it used to be volunteer work, but more often now, people want to get paid for what they do, and they're doing it in new and exciting ways. I don't want to be a full-time worker at the same work that I did all of these years. I want to start something new. Technology is exciting. I want to go away from manufacturing and do something in customer service. It's an exciting time, and it's being supported by sectors such as the federal government, who are providing programs such as Plus 50 at the community college level of education, where you can go back to school and get an assisted program where you can learn new technologies and go back into the workplace doing something new and exciting.
Oh, that sounds great. Okay, as we're mentioning that, baby boomers are, they're working longer and, still plugging along. And, a lot of the things that you discuss is, one of the issues that you mentioned is about bosses being much younger. So now, baby boomers are now faced with, their boss was always a 60-year-old and they were 20 or 30. Now it's kind of the roles are reversed, so there's kind of some things to get used to with the age gap then.
Well, I'm going to lay a foundation for you, and that's so true. And when I do my speaking engagements on this topic, I call this section "My Boss is a Teenager." And in my last position, my boss was the age of my daughter. And after nearly 40 years in this business, it was a little disconcerting at first to have my boss be so much younger than me, and it was difficult for her as well, since there was an intimidation factor before I even opened my mouth. So that shows in some of the statistics that perhaps even up to 80% of individuals over 55 are working in the workplace now for people who are younger than they are. The composite picture right now of the demographics in the workplace looks something like this. People over 66 make up about 5% of the workforce. Baby boomers between 46 and 65 are 39% of the workforce. So individuals 31 to 45 are only 32%, and those under 30, only 24%. So the boomers, a big portion of that workforce, are going to be working for people younger than they are. It causes a lot of problems in two general areas. One is the recruitment of individuals that are mature into the workplace by human resource departments, marketing departments, and also that issue of retaining individuals in that workforce. And don't forget now, we have a shrinking workforce because the 78 million boomers only brought on the next generation of 66 million to take up the next generation. So we're not going to have as many people in the workforce. We've had a shrinking workforce of younger workers for a number of reasons. A lot of the individuals between 16 and 24 are not in the workforce now. They remain in educational institutions and are not working until later. And so we're finding now that shrinking workforce will rely heavily on having the senior adult worker be the person that they're recruiting. So here comes that HR person, and they're going to be looking for an older adult worker. There comes that young manager who's going to have to work on a program to retain that older adult worker, and it becomes a policy and procedure proposition for the organization to really develop a good program within their organization to support the teenage, as I put it, teenage boss syndrome.
Oh, okay. Well, That's good to know. So, yeah, as we're mentioning that, right now, as the boomers are, as they're aging, as we're mentioning in my dad's case that there's so many different situations, where people are retiring, getting back into the workforce, staying in the workforce longer. So I mean, I guess what's great about this is you're never too old then really to work then.
Well, you really aren't. And one of the companies that's learned that there are a few companies that are really innovative, and one of them is CVS drugstores. Do you have that chain, Mike, near you?
I do.
Good. Well, CVS has been really innovative. They've hired people way up into their 90s to work for them. And in fact, in 1992, they had about 7% of their workers were over 55. They currently have doubled that, more than doubled that. And the company boss, the big guy at the top, says, without our older workers, we wouldn't even have a company. They've decided to emulate the Walmart greeters at CVS, which will be starting, I guess, pretty soon. And, of course, they're going to use their older adult workers as their greeters. One thing they know is that the older adult worker may be technologically not as advanced as their younger counterparts, but they are far advanced in customer service and need much less training that way. But they've done some very innovative things to make sure that the older adult worker stays at CVS. For example, they know that older adult workers are very good at organization and discipline, punctuality, and so they have found that one of the key places that they use their older adult worker is in inventory, particularly in greeting card sections. They say they just do a bang-up job there. A second area that they use more mature workers is in pharmacy. They found a very difficult place to find positions was to fill the assistant technicians in their pharmacy departments. And so they did a program where they recruited retired nurses. How clever of them. And brought back the nurses to train. It's been an excellent program. Lastly, they discovered one position, particularly in the Midwest, where they couldn't find assistant managers, a very hard position to fill. They could find managers, but not someone as an assistant manager. And so they put out a call from their HR department to look for senior workers who had backgrounds in management and business in any field. They said they could train them in their particular company policies and procedures as long as they had the experience and expertise in management. It turned out to be terrific. So CVS has done just an excellent job and are a model really for other companies. Florida has actually been one of the leaders in programs. There have been several large healthcare chains that have used senior workers in some excellent ways. And one of the things that they're most clever about is knowing that senior workers love flexibility. We are just happy to find out that we can work different hours, different days. Maybe we could job share, perhaps be a consultant or a mentor, rather than work the same old 40 hours a week, 9 to 5. And so being able to use those stretched skills makes it much more fun to come back to work. For example, there's a chain from the of nursing homes and assisted living programs that were having a difficult time in their new facilities finding someone to hang their wallpaper. So they went out and put a call out and found that there were a lot of out-of-work senior people who were painters. They put out a call for training of painters to do wallpapering, and they got a terrific crew. They're using them all over the state of Florida to do their wallpapering of their new facilities. Clever, and happily the painters are saying they love their new skills and are able to supplement their incomes in their own home areas doing side work. It was a wonderful plan, a good program, and it benefited everybody.
Oh, fantastic. And now, Iris, we know that a lot of seniors are going, back to college. They go back to school. I mean, do you feel that a lot of seniors are going back and then still trying to pursue a new trade or something like that? Or
There certainly has been a lot of support for that. The Plus 50 and another program called Encore Careers has really helped seniors to do that. One of the things that's happened is that the whole technological age came about, and seniors were not really, the senior worker, the mature older worker was really not a part of that in the growing up period. So, right now, my granddaughter, age 9, and I use the same cell phone. In fact, she uses it more cleverly than I do. So we were not as technologically advanced, and that's the area where people are going back and taking up second and even third careers. The technology industry has found that there was a period where there were big layoffs in technology, and they're bringing back those people to return to work, because that technological industry needs more people at all levels of work, both experienced and new people. Indeed, the senior worker and older adult worker are finding themselves really fascinated by what's new and available that hasn't been available before. There's an interesting project, again in Florida, interesting enough, Mike, for nursing. There's been a nursing shortage, and there always is periodically a nursing shortage. And so many nurses who have been retired have been afraid to come back to nursing because of the huge technological changes in healthcare. A lot of them let their licenses lapse and were afraid that being able to take a license exam would be a task that would be way too difficult. But a large chain of hospitals said, we'll foot the bill for you to retrain. We'll give you the refresher courses. We'll bring you up to date. And they went back to the alumni from the universities, the retirees, and brought back a large number of nurses that could fill a gap for part-time positions where they were really needed. So I think that shows that people are really ready to come back to both old careers and to start up new ones.
Oh, fantastic. And now we have to talk, Iris, about, small businesses, and we know that there's, a lot of franchises. I mean, in your experience, have you felt that some of the seniors have decided to still make that leap and adventure into owning a small business?
Well, small business is an interesting place for the senior to look, and it's kind of a mixed bag, Mike. I have a experience with my own family and a small business, and them employing senior workers who are just a terrific asset to the business organization. They provide not only their work experience, but terrific cookies and wonderful baked goods and a lot of humor and wisdom. And I think that in a small business really shows up more than it does in a big organization. As far as franchising and buying into small business enterprises, you find that more as a cottage industry, but truly that is happening. People are making hobbies that they craft hobbies, for example, into money-making adventures. Flea markets, craft fairs, you'll find often the painter who had never had time during his years in the working world to put into his artwork is now much more prolific and finding an outlet for that. But as far as the large chains, such as McDonald's, for example, or Staples, or a company where franchise businesses are bought into, there's still the median age, 41 to 54-year-olds, are the prime owners of those companies.
Okay, that's good to know. And we're talking about like we're saying, seniors and baby boomers making these, like brownies, craft fairs, things like that. And I mean that's part of it too. I mean it all helps, because I know my great grandmother, she was, I don't know, like 80 years old, and she'd still do that. She could barely walk, but I know, again, we're talking about passion and motivation. She'd be at those craft fairs.
Well, it's interesting, because there's a perceptual gap that is really important to know about workers. And one of the things that I talk about, and it's important to know for the young supervisor as well as for the general public, we have a lot of misconceptions about the older worker. And one of the most appealing characteristics that you just talked about is their motivation. They are one of the most motivated workers, and they are a great inspiration to their younger counterparts. We also know that they're dedicated and punctual and tend to take a great deal of pride in their work. Some of the misconceptions, and I don't know if you've heard some of these things, Mike, but they're kind of hopefully falling by the wayside. But a lot of people have thought that maybe having older workers come on and training them is a bad investment, because they're not going to work for very long. That's not true. Actually, if people live to 65, they're going to probably live way up into their 80s, and they're going to work for a long time. Other people have thought that, you can't really train older people to do new jobs. That it's kind of I can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's not true either. They've been shown over and over again that it may take longer to teach someone some of the new technologies, but it certainly is worth the investment, because older workers, again, are the kind that once they learn their job, they're there to stay. They're loyal, they don't job hop, they're dedicated workers, and they're going to stay put. There's also a misconception about older workers taking more time off because of illness or injury. Again, that's not true. The younger generation actually takes more time off, and more injuries happen to the age group between 16 and 24, not our older adult workers. So I think a lot of misconceptions have to be cleared up, and know that the workers up into their 80s and 90s, which will be commonplace as we get into the year 2030, are people that are going to be there because of that strong work ethic and motivation to be productive.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing we talk about, Iris, is this very strong work ethic, and again, it could be with any particular generation, but yeah, as you're saying in my particular case, that people in that particular case, like we're saying, baby boomers do seem that they just seem to get it when it comes to work, because they've probably been at it for so long then.
Well, they've been at it for a long time, and things have changed, but the workplace again is changing to support that. For example, the whole issue of ergonomics. There for a long time, the workplace wasn't so comfortable. I know when I first walked into my last job, Mike, there was a chair that was built for somebody 6'2", and I can tell you that I'm nowhere near that. And older workers, and as we get older, we kind of shrink. My daughters are thinking that if I keep shrinking the way I am, I'm going to be an elf pretty soon. But we have to get our workplace to be user friendly, and if it is, that older worker is going to stay there. Our sight changes, our hearing changes. We're a little more sensitive to temperatures, and we need comfortable chairs and big monitors on our computers. We need a workplace that isn't too noisy. But if you give that to us, we're going to stay there, we're going to work, we're going to produce. The other thing that's important and that changed dramatically in the 1960s was the Anti-Discrimination Act that made it against the law to discriminate based on age. And that has been an important factor in having people remain in their jobs. It's interesting because in the 60s we were looking at the EEOC, or the Equal Opportunity Commission, as making sure that race, ethnic background, religion, sex, and age were places where you could not discriminate in the workplace. But it took an extra law to be passed to make sure that age was not discriminated against. And interestingly enough, in the last 10 years, the lawsuits for discrimination and harassment that were based on age were more successful by far than all the other lawsuits that were based on other issues combined. So that age discrimination is a big factor, it's a big issue, and it is taken seriously, very seriously, by this generation. They're an assertive generation. They're not going to be discriminated against. They're going to be at work. They are a motivated generation.
Yeah, that's great, Iris. And we talk about, the baby boomer generation, but the one thing I have to comment on is there's a lovely lady. Her name is June Foray, and she's still working. She's 95 years old. She was in a lot of the Bugs Bunny commercials, cartoons rather, and she's still working today, still does a 9 to 5 shift. So, I mean, it is amazing that we still have, the previous generation still working. So, I mean, when we have that generation, the baby boomer generation, seems like we got a lot of good workers coming in here.
Well, we do have people that have remained in the workforce, and you're going to, the individual. I have one person who is 85 who's still running his corporation, doing a magnificent job at it, and I always chuckle because he still has his own hair, his own teeth, and takes one pill a day. He's in magnificent shape, walks his 2 miles, and of course we'd like to see all of our seniors in that kind of shape, but that's not the standard, but it certainly is going to be more and more the condition as we see the baby boomers aging and our next generation coming up as we get healthier, and technology is helping us to stay healthier. But I think that what we want to know is that our policies and procedures in the organizations that we work for are supporting that senior worker being able to stay in the workforce. It's very important that the values that we bring to our organizations, that management and upper management and administration say that we need that older worker, that we respect that older worker, that we want to make sure the workforce and the workplace allows for their comfort and advancement and equality in the workforce, and that we build certain innovations in. For example, benefit programs. The benefits today are really not written for the older worker, and insurance companies and organizations really have to revamp their current process. I went to work at a company, and I was in my early 60s and couldn't qualify for anything. I was too old. The only thing I could get was my health insurance, dental, and vision. Everything else I was too old for. It meant that shortly thereafter, I moved to work for a university-based organization because I qualified for everything. It's really very important to not discriminate because of age in things like disability insurance. More importantly is let's change the whole benefit package and make them flexible so someone who's coming in at 55 and taking a job, 65 and taking a job, has benefits that are useful for them. How about long-term care insurance? How about end-of-life services? I'd like to have a funeral package as part of my benefits now. I'm not really worried about a 401k. I'm not interested in that at this point in my life. I'm interested in some other things. How about some help with the caregiving expenses for the loved ones that I have in my life that need those? And this can be a terrific financial burden. So it's really imperative that the organizations and our industries take a look at those benefit packages so that we bring the older worker on and really make it an attractive place for them to work.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely good to know. Okay, Iris, as we're getting to the nitty-gritty, one thing I did want to bring up that you mentioned was volunteer work, and we want to encourage all those seniors out there listening that there, like I said, there's places like Walt Disney World and Universal Studios here that will pay fairly good wages. But I mean, we always encourage people. Of course, we have Health Central Hospital here in Ocoee, and we see a lot of seniors donating their time. So I mean, we want to encourage people to look at all possibilities, but, at the same time, maybe make a little money for themselves and give back to the community.
You bet. I think one of the things that we're looking at again in this kind of cyclical model of retirement is balance. Being able to work a little, play a little, give a little back to the community that supported us. That balance is really the goal, and I think that I agree with you totally that it's a wonderful to be able to do that. I've been really blessed with the opportunity now to be able to do that. I've been in a position. Now I'm going to be able to kind of kick back a little and work part-time, be able to give some volunteer time on several boards and give back some of my expertise, and even maybe travel a little, Mike, which would really be nice.
Oh, yeah, that sounds great. Okay, Iris, and before we go, I do want to mention, like we did last time, about your website, because that does have a lot more information. We kind of just scratched the surface today, but you've got a lot more information on your website, and you also do, I guess, presentations similar to this. Could you tell us about all that?
I certainly will. I do speaking engagements, and I do consultation and training on this topic of aging in our aging world. It's certainly this aging in the workplace, and there's so much more we haven't talked about in depth that I'd love to share with anyone in the audience that's doing any kind of event. HAGinthebag.com is my website. HAG stands for, by the way, Hero for an Aging Generation, and we all need to be advocates for our aging individuals, especially in the workforce, but in any walks of life. We want to advocate for our senior members, and so that's my role, is to help you to grow into that role also. In fact, if you come to my event, you may be able to get a HAG pin. You too can be a hero for an aging generation. But please visit my website and keep abreast of the things that we may be going on with my HAG and my bag of tricks. Those are the special things that I'm going to share with you at any event that you join me with, that will help you to do your job even better than you're doing it now.
Okay, I just want to thank you so much for your time. So in conclusion, any final thoughts or anything else you want to talk about seniors and baby boomers in the workplace?
Just want to share that, we have to remember that the baby boomer generation has marched its way through each decade and made significant changes. It was the workplace, child care is now in place. Women are in positions of power in the workforce. We have no forced retirement. The big changes are happening now again, and we're going to see significant changes for the mature worker in the workplace that will be mainstay. We'll be telling our children this is the way it is, and we made it that way. I hope that corporations, industry will step up. And certainly, if you are an older member of the workforce, that you too will step up through organizations, through your own organization that you work for, but also organizations such as AARP and the Council on Aging, and let your voice be heard as to what you need in that workforce to make it a friendly and convenient and effective place for you to be. Let's make sure that the baby boomers continue to march on through doing their good work.
Okay, my guest has been Dr. Iris A. Pfeffer, and you've been listening to the Mike Care radio program, Eye on the Nation, and please catch us again next time.